All right, y'all. This is how it goes. I know there's a lot of people trying that challenge right now, the Freedom Fighter Challenge. This is what I got to tell you. 40 years ago, 42 years ago, I had this system. It was my first system, the Odyssey 2. And I had this game, Freedom Fighters, growing up. Now, back in those days, I remember controller, left controller, right controller did two different things. Okay. And I mostly played it myself. I had, a couple sisters. One of them was a baby. The other one, 2 years younger than me. I didn't get her. I couldn't get her to play with me that much with the Odyssey 2. So I mostly played it myself. So if you grew up on it, you would know that if you had Freedom Fighters, that both sticks did something. So you learned quick that if you're going to use one joystick, then you're going to use the one that just floats around the screen and stays on one screen. Now I remember back then I used to play with the firing more than the time giving you points. I'm not sure. I can't remember the scores I used to get, but I do remember towards the end of having the Odyssey. I remember towards the end, I had finally figured out that two people could play it against two people working together. And I don't know if I asked my mother or my father or a friend of mine or my sister, but I do know that I did get someone to do it with me, and I don't know what the results were. But whenever I played it alone, I never tried to play it with both controllers. It was like it's impossible to control to try and control both controllers yourself. So I always played it with one controller. And I don't know if I probably played all the modes where you can hyperspace, where you can stay on one screen, but I remember playing it where you stay on one screen the most. So now recently, when I got back into the game this year, I noticed I noticed that I kept playing it over and over and over. Left controller, press one. The fire, with the firing, but on a single screen, and I couldn't get over 227. That was my high score. I probably played 100 games, and 227 was my high score doing it that way. Left controller, press one, go. 227. Then I figured out the time way, and I got 283. Doing left controller, press zero. So 283. Now, this is what got me into this investigation. Looking into, I'm just kidding when I say investigation, but looking into something, that was out, was produced 40 plus years ago. Why is it that I can only get 227 and 283? Why can I not break 300? In the single mode. So that got me into looking for other high scores. I wanted to see if someone was getting that, was getting over 300 playing that way, and I couldn't do it. So I looked on YouTube, and I saw some, I put in freedom fighters and I saw a bunch of videos, but I didn't realize at the time that people were playing all different ways, trying to play with the 2 controllers. But it seemed like most of the videos I saw was one player playing, one person. And I still didn't see nothing that really that high. So now I Googled it. Came to find out from Twin Galaxies that there was a score in the 800 and something. And then there was a video on Twin Galaxies, someone getting like 405 or something like that. So, what this made me do, it made me think, back at the time, 40 years ago, when people were playing this a lot, I remembered the magazine because I have all the issues in my collection, the Odyssey Adventure magazines. So I said, let me look in there and see what people were getting for scores. The first issue that covered scores, someone was down for a 309. So I figured, okay, 309. I got 227, left controller press 0. I got 283, left controller press 1. So I said, that relates, 309, okay. That sounds right. So then, the following issues of the magazine, suddenly there was points where someone had gotten 9,000, over 9,000 points, almost 10,000. And then someone else had like 4,000 something. So I said, how the frick did these guys get that? Now, I guess the magazine, as Rover, the YouTuber Rover that just started covering it, he looked into it as well. And he said, the magazine in the beginning, when we're going to do the high score challenge, it didn't say anywhere where it requires a screenshot to get the t-shirt, to win the t-shirt. Basically, all you got to do is make up a score, send it in, and hope you were in the drawing for the t-shirt. But then, in one of the issues prior to those big scores, it did say we require a screenshot of the score. So I imagine up to that point, later on, the magazine wasn't going to credit you with the score unless you sent a screenshot. So now, those 2 big scores that are registered of 4,000 something and 9,000 something, those would have been at the time where you had to send in a screenshot. So now that's where my theory came up. How could these two scores from 1983, how can they be possible? How could someone have gotten 4,000 plus almost 5,000, and another guy got 9,000 plus almost 10,000, and I can't even break 300? and other videos and other scores I've been able to dig out, no one even passed a K, 1K. So that's what got me thinking that two-stick mode where I control both buttons. If you choose the fire way, which is press 1, both controllers will fire. But it's a matter of one guy hyperspacing through space, and this one making it stop by moving around the screen, and then this one going, this one moving around, this one going. So that's what made me think that those two scores from the later issues of Odyssey Adventure, when a screenshot was required, how did these guys individually, because only one name listed, how did they get these scores? It's impossible. You know, especially playing in the one screen way. So now, when I saw those videos on YouTube, I noticed where the one guy playing maneuvered his ship to the right with right controller, got his ship over to the right side of the screen, and then thrust it through space, and was able to get the 595. I mean, that was the highest recorded score on video was 595. But it was one guy putting the ship to the right side of the screen, and then so now I started playing it that way. Well, first of all, I didn't notice they were playing that way, but I noticed that they were playing where you could hyperspace with one controller, but your ship would stay in the middle of the screen, in the center of the screen. So I started playing that way, and I was able to get 451. So 451 was a huge improvement over 227 and 283 playing left controller only. So now this was with right controller only. Press 0. That keeps your ship in the center. So legitimately, it is still a one-player game. Or you can play that mode two ways too. It's right controller hit 0, right controller hit 1. Your ship stays in the center, and you hyperspace through space, and you don't stay on a single screen. So now I'm at 451, doing it that way. Now both ways, the non-firing is more effective, where you get points for every second staying alive, is more effective than shooting. Like I said, but shooting gets you your score higher quicker. But then, of course, once you get your score higher, everything gets faster. So, with that said, now I'm at 227 one way, 283 another way, finally 451 this way. So now these scores were all legitimate one-player scores without touching both joysticks. So now what happened is when I went over those videos again, and I said, all right, I'm going to go for that, for the highest recorded record on video, which was 595 on Twin Galaxies video. So when I saw 595, I watched the video again, and I then noticed, by rewatching it, that the guy had, in fact, moved his ship to the right side of the screen and then started hyperspacing. So now I did it that way, and I got 606 on video, which I posted, and broke his record of 595, playing it that way. So now this gets us back to those two big scores from the magazine. Now, before those big two scores, there was the 309 that I told you about. That's when they didn't require screenshots, but it seemed like a really honest score, and probably playing the way, the single screen way. Okay? But then right after that, there was a score of 800 and something, which still seems pretty legit. Probably be playing it in that mode, where I got the 606 possibly. Not the single screen mode, because that would be impossible. So now, the next theory that comes up, those two big scores were only possible playing with another player. I still haven't proven that, because I still haven't played with anyone. But I can assure you that if a second player, second person, controls the other controller, that those scores are possible. So now what it tells me, after all this, and many agree, that those two scores from the magazine, even though they did require screenshots, if two players played, there's no video showing that. Because you can only tell on video. Even if you don't even see the two people playing, you can still see by the video that two people are playing. Because you'll see the ship hyperspace off to the next screen. And then you'll see the single guy play, the single screen, then you'll see it go back. So you would, in the video, you would be able to tell. So what I'm saying is, back in '83, when the magazine kept the high scores, they were required a screenshot. Back then, it would probably be a Polaroid photo of your name. So these two scores were 99.9% done by two people, but obviously they wrote their name only, because you can only fit 6 letters, and sent it in. Probably had a friend play with him, possibly a parent, possibly a sibling. Play with them, get the hang of it, get good at it, and put up those two huge scores in 5,000 and 10,000. The two scores that don't make sense compared to all the other scores that I've been able to find. So those were 99.9.9.9.9% done playing two players. So now the magazine required a screenshot, like I said. So whoever had so-and-so play with them, they got good enough to put up this score, which I believe is possible with 2 players. But the magazine didn't require you to show any further proof than a screenshot, because obviously it was 1983 and you couldn't send a video in. You could technically, but the magazine didn't get that technical like Twin Galaxies. Like Twin Galaxies wanted video. Screenshots weren't accepted by Twin Galaxies. It had to be on VHS video back then. So the magazine wasn't, they weren't taking it that serious. They were just trying to give away some T-shirts and, put something in the magazine, like a high score for all the games. So they weren't going to get technical enough to require a video, which was never. It never mentions that in any of the magazines about sending in a video. They never got that technical. They just needed a screenshot. So in a game like Freedom Fighters, which can be played single player or 2 player against, working with each other for a single score, it's like the guy who runs the Facebook page, DeRosa, he said that the game is meant to be played 2 players, and I agree with that. It is meant to be played 2 players, but obviously, if growing up with the system back in the day, most people played alone. So they do, they at least the game does let you play alone. But obviously, one person trying to use both controllers is, it's really hard. So it's better off you just play one controller, and you're stuck in those modes. But what it comes down to is that those scores ain't legit if we're going to go 1 player here. Because now everybody that's doing the challenge on YouTube is, playing alone. So that's why I brought up the point where the scores all have to be kept separately. And they have to be proven by video, because a screenshot is no proof, just like it wasn't 40 years ago that you didn't play alone. I mean, I don't think there's people that are going to lie about it, like Leo DS or the people that have been playing it. I don't think no one's going to use another player and bullshit. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, to really prove it to, say, Twin Galaxies, you need to have a video. And I'm sure Twin Galaxies, they accepted probably that 595 and that 8-something. Now, in the 8-something score, it was verified 863, but the video, the VHS tape was lost in the archives of Twin Galaxies. So for a little while they had it down as 800, and they changed it to 863 because they probably confirmed it was 863. But I'm sure on that they saw that it was 1 player playing. Same thing with the other guys, 595, that Twin Galaxies has on their forum. The guy posted the video on the forum on Twin Galaxies, so that's not officially accepted by Twin Galaxies. It's just someone that posted it on the forum. But in that one, the guy does touch controller 2 to move the ship to the right and then start hyperspacing with left. And like I said, I've recently broke that playing it that same way. But playing it the single screen way, by using left controller and either hitting 0 or 1, is 227 and 283. And 451 is if you don't touch the other controller, use right controller, press 0. That you can hyperspace, come to a stop, do whatever you want. But when you come to a stop, you can't pick up the other controller and start moving around, even though it's not easy to do, and then start hyperspacing again with one person. But what I'm saying is, by doing that on video, it shows that it could be two players. So if someone legitimately, like say Rover, who said the the um, the manual says that you're allowed to play with both controllers, absolutely yes. But at the same time, if someone wants to cheat, if someone wants to bullshit, they can use a second player and videotape the screen, and you won't know that two people are playing that. So, if they don't want you to know that two people playing it, they're just gonna do the video of the screen. You're not gonna see that there's two people playing it. I mean, on screen you'll see that two people are playing it, but if one player plays it with both controllers, then that's the way it's gonna look on video, as if two people are playing it. So that was my whole explanation about the two controller thing. Yes, you can absolutely try to use both controllers to play it like the manual says. But at the same time, when you do that video of you doing it, that high score, that video is not going to show that there wasn't two people there, unless you do the video from behind you showing that you're only playing it and you're using both controllers to do it. So I think the big challenge, never mind all the high scores, never mind the scores we kind of proved, we pretty much proved ain't legit. The ones that seem legit, and then the few videos recently of people actually playing it, like my 606 video clearly shows that I moved my ship to the right side of the screen and then went. My 451 score shows that I stayed in the center. And actually, I don't have a video for that one, I don't think. Did I do that one off video? I think I did that one off video, the 451. Anyway, that one is the one where I stayed in the middle. But I think the real challenge is, never mind the scores. The real challenge is pick up left controller only. Hit 0, hit 1, either one, don't matter, and get 300. Show me that. That's the challenge right now. Now, once someone does that, then obviously 400 or whatever, a higher score than that, 500 would be the next. But right now, as we speak, pick up left controller, hit 0 or 1. In my opinion, 0 is easier. But whatever, hit 0 and get 300. That's the goal. I'm still trying to do it. And like I said, 283 doesn't sound like much. And I'm sure if you pick up left controller, hit 0, you're going to get into the 200s. Your average person that just started playing it might get into the 200s. But going from, let's say, 220 to 283 on that, those 50-point difference is like 50,000 point difference on other arcade games. It's that much difference. Like every point is like 10,000 points in some games. I mean, every point's like 1,000 points. So here's your challenge. Left controller, hit 0 or 1, whichever way you prefer to play. But either way, 300. Show me 300. That's what I'm going to go for tonight. I've been trying before I did this video, and I'm going to try again. Peace.